For Sean O'Brien, his main prison cards, yeah, this is nice. Chalice of the Void and Blood Moon are the big ones. The prison cards for Peter Hollman. He has this Energy Field, Rest in Peace, 4 of each in the deck. So how that works, Energy Field is you can't take damage. When a card is put into your graveyard from anywhere, sacrifice Energy Field. But that can't happen.
Right. No graveyards.
And I don't think, actually, the mono-red deck, once those two are assembled, I don't think it can beat it.
Red, not great at answering enchantments. In Legacy, Chaos Warp tends to be your card. That one not available in the 75 here.
So he's just out if Peter can put those pieces together.
Yep. And part of the Enlightened Tutor package for this deck is a Blood Moon of Hollman's own. You got to figure the Blood Moon deck does not want to play against decks that also play Blood Moon.
Yeah, the eventual win condition is Helm of Obedience plus Rest in Peace or Luminarch Ascension. Sean starts with Chrome Mox.
Does that resolve? It does.
How's that Chrome Mox imprinting Simian Spirit Guide?
Fancy.
You know, you could have just used the Spirit Guide. You didn't have to do that.
This seems somehow better.
Basic Mountain. You can see a Chalice on 1. Looks like we will. Chalice of the Void on 1 for Sean O'Brien. That turns off, well, not actually a medium amount of things. It turns off Enlightened Tutor, Ponder,
Though
Brainstorm.
The really important spells tend to cost 2 or more in the deck.
Yeah, I mean, if Peter just draws the combo pieces, it won't matter. And so just have it. That's the trick.
Flooded Strand for Hollman. I would expect to see a basic Plains coming off this one.
And you'd be right. He's got it on his radar that Blood Moon might be showing up. Wants to just get basic lands.
We'll see if he has a Rest in Peace here.
He does. See if that's the play. There is one in his hand.
Yeah, that's a part of his combos, so be a good starting point.
Yeah. A Swords to Plowshares in hand, that's not going to do anything.
No.
Engineered Explosives on 0 cracks it to get rid of.
Ooh.
The Chrome Mox and the Chalice of the Void. Hold on.
That is powerful. We'll see what O'Brien's up to. Second Mountain there showing up for Obrien. It looks like another Chrome Mox, a Magus of the Moon in the holdings, and then Phyrexian Revoker coming down. We'll see if he's savvy enough to name Helm of Obedience from here. I would be very surprised to see that name. Jace the Mind Sculptor, the name.
Well, that is both in Peter's deck and in Peter's hand, so a strong play there from Sean. Rest in Peace will be Peter Hollman's. Exiles both graveyards.
And with Jace being in the deck, it's probably just a better name than Helm, actually, because if you name Helm, and you can just Jace and bounce your Revoker. This way, you can't use the Jace to dig for more combo pieces. And here is that second Chrome Mox, exiling Blood Moon to cast Magus of the Moon.
All right, so in response, Peter's going to go ahead and sacrifice that Flooded Strand. He has 8 basic lands in his deck.
Yes.
So 8 basic lands, 7 fetch lands, only 3 non-basics in the whole deck. This is not a deck that is at all soft to Blood Moon.
These players are actually playing the same number of basic lands.
Yeah. Sean's are already mountains, so
right.
You know. No need there.
And this is it. Obrien is empty. He has 2 power creatures. Does he have 4 turns to execute? Though Hollman's been hanging on to a Swords to Plowshares, and the Chalice is no longer on the battlefield, so he'll be able to use that.
Yeah, he can Swords away the Revoker, but instead he'll just cast Supreme Verdict. That's
easy mode.
Yeah. I was going to say Swords away the Revoker and make a Jace, but this seems pretty great.
Yeah.
And Sean's deck, out of prison cards, just says go. Jace should clean this up. 5th land. He'll make Jace leave up Thunder. We'll see how much of this Sean wants to go through.
Both of these decks trying to stop the opponent's ability to play Magic, and then what it boils down to is one's a red deck and one's a blue deck.
Blue decks get to play cards like Jace.
You're not going to see a lot of people telling you that red is a better color in Legacy than blue is.
Well, he found 2 copies of Helm of Obedience, so that should win the game next turn.
Yep, and he has Force of Will backup in case, I don't know, when a Braid happens. It's not in the deck. But, oh, it's actually, sorry.
4.
We'll see if it's in his hand. I was going to say, usually you don't see that, but never mind. There are 4 in the deck.
Cassel Helm of Awakening activates it. There's no graveyard, so that's going to mill all of Sean's deck. Peter Hollman, Jeskai Control takes game number 1. Ryan, the way these prison decks match up against each other, I don't like where it is on the red side.
I like the good color combination prison deck.
All right, we're going to look at their sideboards, and Sean's going to have to adapt. We'll do that in just a minute. So game 1 goes away with Peter Hollman. On the other side, Saul Malka, black-green midrange. He takes Caravan Company game 1. He's up 1-0. All right, Ryan, so let's look at the sideboard here. That was kind of a walk in the park for the Jeskai deck. On Sean's side, he had both a Blood Moon effect and a Chalice of the Void. None of them mattered.
Nope. Well, the Chalice getting engineered explosives was like the worst possible.
Right. So he's going to need some new ways to interact. He's got 4 Leyline of the Void, 3 Ensnaring Bridge. Okay, no and no.
Yeah.
Sorcerer Spyglass, no.
You want to talk about Blood Moon against the Blood Moon deck? How about Leyline of the Void against the Rest in Peace deck? Yeah, forget about that. You have a Boil. That's what you got.
This matchup's horrible. Your cards don't do anything.
Nope. Yeah,
you can execute all your prison elements, and he's just going to not even care.
How'd your match go? Well, I got to do everything I wanted to do and that my deck does, and I lost by a lot.
Well, Sean actually has a lot of creature threats. So just, mashing Hanvir Garrison, Prophetic Flame Speaker, PN Kiron, Koth. I guess that could work.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of want to protect the Chalice of the Void for as much as it doesn't line up against the actual win conditions in Hollman's deck. It's actually one of the most important cards to turn off Swords to Plowshares to make sure that these threats can come across. At that point, though, you have to be worried about getting hit by Supreme Verdict, and Jace can break up some of your Mopier draws as well.
Peter's side, he has 3 Monastery Mentor, 2 Meddling Mage, 2 Swords to Plowshares, 2 Pyroblast. I can't assume he wants Pyroblast. 2 Mind Break Trap, a Seal of Cleansing, so an Energy Flux, an Arcane Laboratory, and a Damping Sphere.
I'm going to say
Look at it doing something
that
there, Ryan.
this Damping Sphere does nothing. That's going to be my baseline assumption. I'm not sure all the matches that you bring in Monastery Mentor in Legacy. It's so good at closing. There's a lot of creatures on the other side of the battlefield, so making a bunch of tokens is not wholly unreasonable. For the most part, though, Hollman could probably just pre-present his Game 1 deck. So Seal of Cleansing, I think, is a meaningful upgrade.
Yeah, I don't actually like Monastery Mentor here because the win conditions Peter has, namely Rest in Peace plus Energy Field, it's pretty good here. I'm not sure I'm looking for a different way to win the game.
Yeah, that stuff is all strong, and no arguments there. And you don't want to be doing anything like boarding out Force of Will in this matchup. You want to make sure to counter those Chalices when they are good. That Blood Moon in the main deck, you better believe that one's coming out.
Yeah, I don't want that here. That's
You don't want Blood Moon against the...
No.
Well, you see, O'Brien's only playing 8 basic lands. And I kind of want to be off Blood Moon on O'Brien's side, too. But that's a much taller order.
See what Sean I am looking forward to some of these threats out of Sean's deck. Because Peter has cards like Rest in Peace, which until it's winning does nothing. He can be slow. He can have a lot of air.
Yeah, and then we might get to see Prophetic Flame Speaker in action. This is one of those cards that actually got a lot of hype when, it's had a Journey into Nyx or Born of the Gods, so one of the second sets in Theros. And initially everybody thought, wow, this card, you get to draw 2 extra cards, and then it proceeded to see almost no play in any format and not really amount to anything. So it has shown up in some fringe decks in Legacy, and that's kind of what you see here, though. It is a prime card to tag with a Swords to Plowshares or a Lightning Bolt in those Lightning Bolt matches.
All right, so we're going to bring back to the booth here. We do have another judge call here, and we're pretty sure we know what this one is on. This is a deck reg mismatch on Peter Hollman's deck sheet. He has only registered 58 of his 60 cards in the main deck. It's very clear which card he forgot, and the judges bring that to his attention. We'll get a ruling from the head judge in a second. This call was made by the head judge, so there isn't an appeal to it. But Ryan, typically this is a game loss.
Yeah. I don't really know what you can do regarding this. I mean,
yeah, I've had this penalty happen to me before.
I
It's
know
been
that
a game loss every time.
some of these deck reg things, they're in a position now where things can be downgraded. I don't really know if that's what you're going to see here.
Yeah, that I don't know the exact leeway of it.
I don't judge, so.
Yeah, so we'll get the ruling here, but I would expect to see that as a penalty in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think spelling errors, or it used to be if any card, let's say you put, I guess a card that could be that starts the name of two different cards.
Maybe you registered a Borborygmos in your
I was trying to
deck.
Right. I just wrote that, and then the person says, no, you have to take the Enraged out of your deck and replace it with the, the
get those
Guild Pact one.
Yeah, get those
no,
Guild Pact Borborygmos.
That's not how that works. That's fine. I've even seen one where a player has registered Searing Spear in Standard currently.
Okay. There's obviously that's Lightning Strike.
And actually, that one was not a game loss.
Yeah.
The judge actually said, I knew what you were trying for. It's cool.
Yeah, that just makes sense to me.
All right, we're going to bring you back down. The judge call is concluded to the feature match area. So, yes, it was a deck registration error. However, the judge ruled that the penalty of this was game loss. So, game 2 will go against Peter Hollman. So, it'll be 1-1. He'll be on the play for game 3. Players are allowed to re-sideboard. And honestly, Ryan, based on how good this matchup looks for him, he has a deck reg error. You want to avoid that. But I think there's a chance, you try to overcome your deck reg error, and I think actually there's a decent chance of it.
Yeah, I mean, he won game 1 very easily, so one more time.
All right, go back down to the feature match area. So a quick shuffle from the players. Perhaps they want to re-sideboard play versus draw. In the meantime, we also had Peter's teammate, Simon Cassel. He did win game 1 with green-white aggro, so it still is 2 games apiece for both teams. It's a feel-bad and team event to pick up the game loss, but Peter is fortunate enough that he's in a position where he has the opportunity to overcome it.
Yes.
It doesn't matter whether you actually, like in team events, it doesn't matter whether you win 2-0 or 2-1. It doesn't even matter if you drop a match, as long as your teammates win.
Right.
It's just 1-0 is the entire scorecard.
Mm-hmm.
Either you did or you didn't.
I think if I got a deck reg game loss at a team tournament, I would tongue-in-cheek blame my teammates for not keeping a better eye on me. There's 2 of you and there's only 1 of me. Neither one of you asked me once if I registered my deck correctly.
Have you added the cards together? Here, can I read your deck list? No one did that?
Yeah.
You need to be the... Yeah. So game 3. This means Peter will be on the play, whereas before Sean was on the play.
Right. And that can make a difference with regard to casting a turn 1 Ponder in the face of potential Chalice of the Voids.
Yeah, well, normally against the Prison deck, you really want to be on the play, because if they make something like Chalice on 1 or Blood Moon, you need to Force of Will it. Mm-hmm. But in this matchup, I'm actually just not worried about those things from Peter's side. There's no turn 1 play from Sean that I'm so scared of that I feel like I have to have Force of Will.
Yeah, a nice setup, too, is that when you're on the play, if nothing meaningful happens on turn 1, then your Jeskai deck, you start having access to Counterspell on the following turns. 2 copies of Counterspell on the main deck here.
Well, both players on a mulligan to 6.
I like the Ponder Brainstorm deck in the mulligan mirror.
Yeah, I mean, Sean's deck is trying to power out 1 or maybe 2 things. And as long as his 6 cards does that, I actually like, he basically doesn't care about the mulligan. So he can have a very reasonable 6. Just the more turns any of these games go, the more Magic that's played, the worse things get for Sean. His cards are just not good.
That's certainly true, though. In this matchup in particular, where even his Haymakers can line up very poorly,
yeah,
I would rather just... if I could have 7 I don't know. Just mulliganing seems so rough.
Yeah, I mean, he has 8 Blood Moons in the main, and he just can't. They're horrible against the deck, and he doesn't even have other cards to board in for them.
Right.
He's gonna have dead cards in his deck post sideboard.
Yeah, it's not pretty.
Both players on 6s. Both players scrying here, top and bottom. And looks like Force of Will in the opener for Peter. And we are ready to go. Starts off on a Ponder, does Peter. Off a Tundra.
Force of Will in the opening hand, usually a pretty good feeling against a deck like Mono Red Prison.
Swords to Plowshares, Island, and Rest in Peace. This is an interesting one. He looks like he will take the Island, so he makes sure he has a basic. Keeps them on top. He doesn't actually have any that was his first basic. His hand had 2 lands in it, but they're both non-basics. See if he's going to have to use that Force of Will. What's the turn 1 play you're always looking for out of the Mono Red deck? Ancient Tomb, Thorn of Amethyst.
That one I wouldn't mind letting go.
So non-creature spells cost 1 more. That's fine. Land, go.
Yeah, you can still cast Force of Will on the following turn against that. Against a deck like Colorless Eldrazi, you definitely want to pick fights over Thorn of Amethyst because then they're going to wasteland you and then you won't be able to pay for anything. But against a deck like Mono Red Prison, the Thorn, it actually slows Obrien down with some of his spells a little bit, and because there's no additional pressure and Hollman's going to have some time to set up, you don't really care too much about the Thorn.
No, he can make Magus of the Moon here. He's going to go with Hanvir Garrison. 2-3 here.
I like the play. It applies more pressure. And in game 1, we saw so many basic lands for Hollman.
Hollman was actually really punished on his Ponder there. He had a Swords to Plowshares that it was his 3rd card down off the Ponder.
Yeah, he drew Rest in Peace first. He would have liked to have just cast it on turn 2. It would be a better use of his mana, but the way it played out here, not great.
Well, he'll spend the mana here. And the net result means Rest in Peace isn't in play when it could be.
Yes. Kind of an unfortunate thing, the way the game is shaping up. Hollman does have a Supreme Verdict in hand, but with that Thorn on the battlefield and Hollman not guaranteed to hit a 4th land drop, he can't really wait on that.
And here's Magus of the Moon for Sean. Can change all his lands into mountains, so can keep it around. And a draw from Peter. He doesn't have plays. He drew another Supreme Verdict, so he just has the island and now 2 mountains. He can't play.
And we'll see if we get to see one of my favorite games from circa 2009-10 Legacy, the game where you cast Magus of the Moon and just attack 10 times.
So, Ryan, I'm actually a bit confused. So Peter didn't Force a Will to Magus of the Moon, but it felt like he almost needed to, even based on the rest of his hand.
Draws a Plains, he just gets to the Attention Spirit. You're right, it is troubling, but you have a lot of time to draw out of this card.
He has 3 basic Plains, and if he had one in his hand, I would have ignored it, but he didn't.
With the island, it makes it so Ponder is still a good draw from here. And Brainstorm is actually kind of bad now that you can't crack fetch lands.
He's not going to have too much time. Sean has follow-up threats. He's right now deciding between Hanrir Garrison and Pia and Kieran Nalaar. I think either will get a Force of Will.
Yeah, both of those are troubling.
Yeah, here's the Garrison. Yeah, Peter's going to force. He pitches one of his 2 copies of Supreme Verdict, paying for Thorn of Amethyst.
Yeah, those verdicts will require 2 planes, so reasonable card to pitch.
Polluted Delta from Peter, but that's just another mountain. And yeah, we didn't think the Blood Moon effects would be very good. They're working out here, though. Here's the Magus swinging again, Peter to 16.
Yeah, even in the matchups where they're not particularly good, as long as your opponent's playing multiple colors, they can just draw a lot of non-basic lands.
3rd Garrison and Pia and Kieran are the options for Sean. He'll just make a 3rd Hanrir Garrison, and this one might work. He says go.
And that won't take too long to clean up. It's 6 damage next turn, 8 the turn after, so I guess it's 1 shy of being a 2-turn clock.
If Sean wins,
but anything else added to the battlefield next turn will certainly be good. Looks like a discussion about the backside of the
Yeah,
garrison.
he's not playing that other
Yeah,
card.
That's not happening.
Hanweir Battlements, not there. Interestingly, because it's named Hanweir Battlements, you can still fuse it under a Blood Moon because it still has its name. I think. I shouldn't even say, is that not true? Am I making stuff
the
up?
ability to fuse is on the battlements.
Oh.
So
No, oh, okay, so then it isn't. Fine.
Yeah, I mean, I like.
It is still named Hanweir Battlements.
I like where your head's at.
Oh, lame. Well, I tried. It still's called that. It just doesn't do anything. Garrison, every time it attacks, brings 2 more humans with it. I always like the kind of threats that you see these mono red prison decks pick. There's, what's the most damaged 3-mana card I can find? For a while, they played the 1/5 werewolf that transformed into a 5/5.
Hanweir Garrison is actually a card that I find very endearing. It saw very little play in the standard format it was in. There was a red-white human stack that was pretty good. It's at a power level that's generally a bit lower than Goblin Rabblemaster, and there's a few other red 3-drops that are more intriguing, but in a medium power level cube, it's a really fun card.
Well, what I think he's playing Legacy is that because there's so little creature interaction in some matchups, if you just want straight up which red 3-drop can deal damage the fastest, this might be it. Does it, it can close all the way on its own. We'll see right now he's going to cast a Simian Spirit Guide to join the team to up the clock. No, it looks like Sean's going to win, so I'd like to.
And we're going back to Hollman, just still not able to produce anything of value. He's found another Force of Will.
And Sean's actually being pretty smart here. He did not cast PN Kieran Nalaar. He made just in case there was some sort of sweeper. He was holding back that next threat.
It wouldn't be out of the question that Hollman had Kozilek's return.
Exactly. And so Sean Obrien wins 2-1. And at the same time, it looks like Modern Game 2 ends here, but that one goes for Michael Ardoin. So we still have a match. Saul Malka and Michael Ardoin are going to be getting ready for Game 3. So one match is already done. Legacy's in the books. Sean O'Brien wins. We'll be back with the conclusion of the round. All right, so back here, match still the same game score. We're going to go over to the modern match between Michael Ardoin and Saul Malka. If Saul can win this game, his team will take the round. However, Saul's going to 6. Right now on the play with Black-Green midrange, he's up against Bant Company. And Black-Green, like I said, a bit of a throwback. We have been seeing most Tarmogoyf players moving over toward Bloodbraid Elf since the unbanning. Not on Saul's side. So what that gives him is he still has, it looks like, the Mishra's Bauble, 1 Traverse going on his side. I was going to say he'd have Grim Flare, but I don't believe that's true either.
Yeah, that one does not appear to be available.
A full 4 Abrupt Decay.
Yeah, kind of the big draw of being green-black is that you get to play Ghost Quarters.
Right.
There's 3 copies here. Collected Company is a little bit of a tougher card for a deck like this. You don't have as much speed as Jund because you don't have Lightning Bolt, you don't have that reach, and also Bloodbraid Elf is a factor in that equation.
And for these black-green decks, sometimes the Company, these really heavy-valued creature decks, can be a difficult matchup. There's a lot of pressure to have a ton of removal, which Saul has some. On 6 here for Michael Ardoin side, Bant retreat. He's got the retreat to Coral Helm package in here.
When I'm playing a mid-range deck, I'm usually pretty happy if my opponent draws retreat to Coral Helm.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to draw it, for example, in this matchup on Michael's side.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Ryan, I'm hoping we see a 6-power Knight of the Reliquary, because that will end the bingo round.
Yeah, that would be a nice
We are
one.
live right now for that.
This game is likely to take some time as well, so it would not be the most surprising resolution.
I mean, it might die right away because we're playing black-green, but it'll be there.
It's fine, yeah. All it has to do is have lived.
Over on the standard side, Simon Cassel, he is up 1-0 on Sam Tuell, but they need a win from Michael for that match to matter.
Right. Gotta win 2 of the matches.
Looks like 6 cards from Michael's side. Scry. So actually, he's on the 6, and we'll see whether Saul's what the opening hand sizes are here. Looks like 7 on Saul, 6 on Michael. Yeah, Mishra's Bobble from Saul. You always hate mulliganing against a black-green deck. It's just a feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to take all your cards anyway. And that's how Saul's going to start. Yeah, Blooming Marsh. He actually passes. Looks like he did have Inquisition of Kozilek, but not really wanting to fire it off yet. So scan for maybe something like Fatal Push.
Yeah. Plan seems to be, well, that's what I thought.
But there's not one there.
But I don't see a Fatal Push in the hand. I think that it's discard a bunch of lands and Kalidas.
So is this the kind of thing where because Saul doesn't have a 2-drop, he might as well wait until turn 2? There's no 1-mana card that he's terribly concerned about?
It's not unreasonable. Yeah, the mana creature, they're out in abundance in decks like this. You don't super care about hitting that.
And draws a second Inquisition of Kozilek. So now he'll fire 1 off, see if he needs to fetch for the other. Tireless Tracker, Courser of Crewfix, Path to Exile 2 lands. If he has another black mana source, Ryan, I would not mind taking both creatures.
Yes.
Takes 1. We'll see if he can get the other. And maybe you don't care about the mana creature because on the black-green side, you usually don't spend your removal on the mana creature anyway.
Right.
That's the threat you ignore. And here's another Inquisition. So takes Tracker, takes Courser. Leaves a Path to Exile and 2 lands, just fine on for Saul. Go over to Michael. He'll need to find another threat. Lands Horizon Canopy. He'll cast this Voice of Resurgency Found, though. That'll do just fine. Attacks in for 1 with Noble Hierarch.
That is a reasonable pickup, though. Saul didn't have a removal spell at the ready anyway.
Yeah, and also of note, he has that Kalitas you talked about. So if he can get that in play plus a removal spell, Voice of Resurgence won't actually matter much. It'll just play out like a 2-2.
Michael does still have Path to Exile.
Okay, so he has the Kalitas covered up for now.
Right. Things are looking pretty good for Michael.
Voice Swings in for 3, Saul to 16. You have to agree, things are good for Michael, but the clock is slow. We'll see what can happen. Collective Brutality picked up. And Saul knows about Path.
Yeah, that can deal with the Path.
So maybe Brutality first to take care of the Path and then make Kalitas?
Yeah, there's a lot of lands, so escalating is pretty easy. You can take care of the Noble Hierarch as well.
Yeah, and that's what he'll do. Collective Brutality, -2 to the Noble Hierarch, and take an instant from Michael's hand. And he will actually Path his own Noble Hierarch. Which, that makes sense. If
you're going to lose them both anyway.
Yeah, if this blanks the Brutality, this is just the play.
Mm-hmm.
He'll get a land. I would be surprised if we see any legal targets then in Michael's hand.
Yeah. Oh, here's my collecting company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, why'd you... I messed up.
I really wanted that mana. But yeah, it's going to miss.
Michael cracks Horizon Canopy. He still has the board, but his clock very slow here. As you see, Voice of Resurgence is just going to chip in for 2 more. Saul down to 14. Fetch land, Birds of Paradise, and a pass. One more card in Michael's hand.
Bird's a bit worse than Noble Hierarch.
And we'll see now. The Kalitas Sol was building up toward. He'll cast that, make a tap land, and that's Hissing Quagmire, and say go.
The Quagmire is actually pretty reasonable as they can block the Voice of Resurgence.
Oh, yeah. This is great. It stops all the attacks for now, and if Sol draws a removal spell, the Kalitas gets out of control.
Yes.
You know, his deck plays a few of those.
Yeah. Not shy on removal spells.
Now, Michael's side just has the 3 remaining copies of Paths to Exile. He has 3 Reflector Mages. Not sure how many of those are still in the deck, but that's it for removal.
Reflector Mage is not terrible against Tarmogoyf decks.
Right. It's a little low on the power to mana cost ratio, but it does work. It finds targets. Sol's side. Land 6 is a Ghost Quarter. 1 more card in hand. He's going to activate 1 Hissing Quagmire and actually swing both. I mean, Michael's not going to trade anything, so swing for 5 puts Michael to 12, Sol up to 17.
I think right now, Collected Company is the best top deck in
yeah.
either deck. So Sol does want to keep the pressure up just because the highest possible hit is available to Michael and not to him.
Yeah, if Michael draws a company, that's how Sol loses control.
Right.
Michael plays a fetch land, swings for 2 with the Voice. And because that Kali doesn't play, this is a 3-turn clock, and Michael can't really slow it down. I mean, you said, oh, maybe you can chump block for extra turns, but you just don't want to play that game against Kalitas.
Right. Then you start making zombies materialize on the other side of the battlefield.
Activates Quagmire, swings again, does Sol. Michael down to 7, Sol up to 18. Pressure is on Michael to change the board, as it's a 3rd Hissing Quagmire from Malka.
Yeah, 1 mana away from attacking with 2, and then actually forcing a chump block. Fetch for Temple Garden here. That's not going to do anything.
So the winner of this round will be tied for first. We have over on table 1, Todd Anderson's team. They were 8-0 going into day 2. They pick up a loss, so 1 loss on every team to start tomorrow.
Pretty even field.
And Michael still trying to find some sort of threat. Moving mana, he's drawn something. Swings with Voice, Sol to 16. I mean, Sol's life total going up. And you even mentioned that double Hissing Quagmire attack. That's nothing to laugh at here. Scavenging Ooze now from Michael. And it looks like a Stomping Ground tapped.
Damn, Michael's had a few creatures in his graveyard for a while now. Those discard spells from Sol put them there.
Remember, though, the Hissing Quagmires actually have Death Touch, so they're still difficulty.
Yeah, so the attack would be for 7, but Michael can actually gain 2 life and survive for the turn if Sol makes that big attack.
Sure.
If he has a removal spell, though, that should break this pretty wide open.
Dark Confidant from Malka. I love that card on this board. So Michael has somewhat stopped Sol's attacks, but he's nowhere near being able to attack himself. You see exiles both creatures. Michael goes up to 8, Ooze to a 4/4. But that Dark Confidant, we've just mentioned this whole time how Sol was just 1 removal spell from breaking this open. Dark Confidant's going to help him find that.
Right, and Sol's not anywhere near taking 16. That Confidant's not going to lethal him anytime soon.
Here is Thrun the Last Troll from Michael.
That's fine.
Yeah, that'll do well here for now. So Dark Confidant shows Verdant Catacombs. Extra card for Sol. Draws for turn.
Ooh, I have the Dark Confidant reveals land bingo square.
I'm going to get that one. I got one here too. I'm going to check off Collective Brutality, cast with 2 modes.
Not bad. Can we count escalating as a spell being kicked?
No, that's a spell being escalated, in fact.
It is the same.
Everything's kicker. That's usually every mechanic is just kicker.
Correct.
We see Hissing Quagmire attacked. It was a block and regenerate by Thrun.
Oh, there was a Chalice on 1, too. Oh, yeah. Check that box. Yeah, Thrun gets to regenerate anyway.
Was that an attack? Back over to Saul. Dark Confidant flips. That's going to show Tireless Tracker. Saul down to 12. Another card. He still hasn't found another removal spell, Ryan.
Yeah, he's trying a lot of cards, but it's all creatures.
Well,
Tireless Tracker helps to draw out.
Here we go. Here's Tireless Tracker.
One of the better cards in these kind of mid-rangey mirrors.
Land and Clue. I mean, Saul's just drawing so many extra cards here.
Yeah, Dark Confidant plus Tractor active.
Yeah, that's not... Yeah, so 2, 3 cards a turn most likely. It's possible that he has even more than that. Thrun swings in. Another Hissing Quagmire activated. And block and regen. You spend the mana to crack a clue.
Yeah, Saul a little
Concerned
concerned
about his
about
life
his
total.
closing speed. He does have that active Dark Confidant, so you want to soak up some of this damage.
Yeah, you've seen him chump block away now 2 Hissing Quagmires.
Won't be long before the Tireless Tracker is able to just jump in front of the Thrun and be fine.
Another Voice of Resurgence on Michael's side, however. And this is kind of crazy. Saul's just waiting for a kill spell. And Damnation. Well, okay, that's a removal spell, but I don't even want to cast that one here. Saul goes down to 8. The Thrun can regenerate. Nothing else can.
Damnation does not allow regeneration.
Oh, yeah. It's Wrath of God. Okay.
That's not an interaction you see too often in Modern, but also worth noting that if you fire off the Damnation, you end up with 5 zombies, which is pretty lethal, and clear out all these blockers. So
7. Right. Isn't it your own?
Is it your own?
Oh, it's only your own. No, he only zombies. He doesn't do it to your own creatures. You're right. Otherwise, he got him off the Quagmires. I played with that card. But yeah.
Exile all this junk, make some zombies.
Yeah, also picked up Maelstrom Pulse this turn, so plenty of options finally for Saul.
Maelstrom Pulse on the Voice of Resurgence is not the worst.
Here's Damnation. Yeah, there's the no regen clause, so everything's gone plus 5 zombies for Malka.
Should be pretty good. Yeah, you can pay to regenerate.
Yeah, I was gonna do it.
It just won't do anything.
They don't.
You want to exile some cards from a graveyard?
These cards, if they'd printed Damnation nowadays, they would never put the no regen clause on it. You know, sweepers don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Supreme Verdict, Day of Judgment, you can regenerate through all that stuff.
Fumigate, yeah. All 5 gone. All 3 gone on Saul's side. 5 zombies. Gonna be a fast cleanup for Malka.
Well, that's just lethal next turn.
Yep.
Yeah, Michael has to draw something big. Almost needs to be running collected companies into the perfects.
And post-combat makes a Scavenging Ooze, leaving up double green. Back over to Michael. 1 draw, picks it up. Birds of Paradise. Perhaps to block, he needs 3 blockers.
To tread water.
To tread water. 1 card in hand makes 1 blocker, says go. Saul cracks the clue. This isn't going to do it. And with this win, it's going to mean Sean O'Brien, Saul Malka, and Sam Tuell are going to win the round. With 2 matches, they'll improve to 8-1, where they'll enter a tie for first place tomorrow. Both these teams, however, will be coming back.
Yes.
And there's the swing for lethal and the handshake. So that's going to do it. Congratulations to both teams here. We'll see them both tomorrow. Though for Saul's team, that win puts him in a great spot looking forward